Hey, what's going on, guys? Chris Chavez here with Phandroid.com. Today we're going to be taking a look at the ZTE Blade V8 Pro. Now, I know the name is kind of a mouthful, but don't let that deter you. It's actually one pretty great little affordable Android device. Now, normally I couldn't, in good conscience, recommend an affordable Android device. There's just usually this huge, I guess, trade-off when it comes to hardware and specs. But apparently, all that's changing. It's 2017, and smartphone manufacturers are really just, upping their game. Now, without further ado, let's take a look. Now, honestly, there's a ton of things that I love about the Blade V8 Pro. It pretty much nails all my minimum hardware specs that I would require out of an Android device. It comes with 32 gigabytes of storage right off the bat with a micro SD card slot. And while the micro SD card slot you can find in a lot of devices, most of the time, if you're looking at something a little bit older, they have 16 gigabytes of storage, and I just wouldn't recommend that at all. In a nutshell, a 16 gigabyte phone just isn't usable, and you're going to end up kicking yourself in the pants somewhere down the road. Now, I guess the first thing you're going to notice is when you take it out of the box is the build quality is actually pretty darn nice. Now, I wasn't expecting this from a $230 smartphone, but on the back you have this kind of unique textured silicone grippy material. There's no camera protrusion, so you don't have to worry about it, scraping up against hard surfaces. The sides of the phone have like a flat metal frame, which I actually really love. It kind of reminds me of the OnePlus 2, and it doesn't really taper off to like these fine little points or edges like you find on a lot of other smartphones, and that kind of allows you just to get a really firm, good grip on the phone. You don't have to worry about it slipping out of your hand or, investing in some cheap, nasty case to put over it just so that you get a little extra grip. Now, on the front, you have 2.5D glass, so your finger just kind of glides over all the edges. It's super slick and smooth and oleophobic. And again, it just sort of completes this whole premium feel with the phone. Again, so holding it in your hand, you're just not gonna feel like this is a $230, some kind of budget, bargain bin smartphone. Now, taking a look at the rest of the specs, on the front you have a 5.5-inch Full HD LCD display. Now, this isn't the normal kind of cheap LCD that you find on a lot of other devices. It's actually pretty darn nice. The colors, they pop, they're super sharp, even at 5.5 inches. You're not gonna find a single pixel. Not gonna be able to make out any of that stuff. And I particularly loved, I guess you could say, the refresh rate when you're scrolling around and stuff. There's not this, I guess, motion blur that you get from a lot of other devices. Now, on the bottom, you have a USB Type-C port with quick charging 2.0. So it's not the fastest quick charging or fast charging tech that we've seen on a phone, but it definitely gets the job done. Now, you pair this with a 3,140 milliamp hour battery, and just in my personal use, with all my apps, everything syncing, it's a full brightness. I mean, I wake up at like 7 in the morning, I go to bed at like 1 or 2 a.m., and there are few nights that I've ever seen it drop below 40% at the end of the day. Now, a lot of this has to do with the Snapdragon 625 processor, which just really sips battery life, but still delivers the performance I would need from a smartphone. I was actually pretty darn impressed. Now, the OS itself is actually pretty nice. It's running Mi Favor. It's ZTE's custom version of Android. There's a lot of extra features and just, a few little software tweaks here and there. The UI looks very much or kind of close to stock Android. So while the performance is good, there are some weird, I guess, decisions ZTE has made when it comes to RAM management. Now, I talked about this in my review, but the phone has extremely aggressive RAM management, but it's easy to turn it off in the settings. And once you do, your performance will just jump way up. It is running on Android 6.0 Marshmallow, and I don't believe ZTE's ever mentioned anything about, Nougat. But they did recently release an update for the phone to kind of fix some bugs and update it to the latest Android security patches. But we are looking at a budget device, so when it comes to major firmware upgrades, it's probably not something you should expect. Now, the camera, you have dual cameras in the back. They're 13 megapixels each. Now, the secondary camera on the back is a little bit gimmicky. It's sort of just mainly used to create a wide aperture-like effect. So when you're taking pictures of something at a specific distance, it can kind of create a more shallow depth of field. Now, as you've seen on a bunch of other devices, in practice, it's not always, the most accurate. You will get some weird blurring, and the edges don't always line up correctly. But when it does work, it's it's nice, I guess. I would have much rather have seen ZTE use something to kind of improve photo quality like you see in like the Honor 8. And that's kind of where the camera falters. The dynamic range isn't really the best. It does fire off shots extremely quick. There is no shutter lag. I do recommend shooting in HDR mode. It's a tiny bit slower depending on the scene that you're shooting, but it really just, again, increases the dynamic range of the photo, and the quality is absolutely fantastic. Now, if you head on over to Phandroid.com, I'm going to link it in the description below, but I actually did a comparison with the iPhone 7, both shooting in HDR mode, and I preferred, like 9 out of 10 times, I preferred the photos on the ZTE Blade V8 Pro. It sounds crazy, but yeah, them's the breaks. So yeah, that's kind of the ZTE Blade V8 Pro in a nutshell. I just have to say I was extremely impressed by this phone, especially when I didn't think I would be. Normally when I review a device, it's especially a lower end phone, it's kind of torture for me, especially coming from high-end devices like the Google Pixel or the Axon 7. But I had a great time using the Blade V8 Pro, and I really just don't think that anybody could buy this phone and not be happy with it. I think it's hands down the best phone that you can get under $250, so it definitely gets my personal seal of approval. For more on the ZTE Blade V8 Pro and other Android devices just like it, make sure you hit up Phandroid.com where you can find my full review, as well as tips and tricks and first things you should do with the phone and all that fun stuff. With Phandroid.com, I'm Chris Chavez. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.